Shaw here. I'm kind of stuck in my car for a little while. I'm on my way back from a women's fair that I was invited to attend. I'm representing my shamanic services there, and they asked me to bring my drums. They wanted everybody that was a participant at the fair, a vendor at the fair, to do a presentation. So they wanted me to bring my drums, but I don't know, that just seems kind of like silly to me to like stand up in front of a bunch of people and drum, because that really isn't typically how a shaman uses their drum anyway. So, but I did. I brought both of my drums, my big heavy buffalo drum and my horse drum that I made. And I did a really brief demonstration and showed them the drums, let them touch them if they wanted to, play them if they wanted to. Talked a lot about shamanism and how shamans use the drum to alter consciousness. And I gave a brief sort of description of what a potential healing ceremony would look like if I had somebody in front of me that was seeking my services, and how I would use the drum in that. But I spent the majority of my time actually facilitating a community despacho. I just felt like that was a much more demonstrative and participatory, activity that people would enjoy, and it went really well. Actually, people enjoyed it a lot, and I got a lot of people that weren't talking to me before it was my turn to do the presentation come up to me afterwards and had a lot of questions and were interested in it. So I'm glad I had the opportunity to do that. I bundled up the despacho. It was a gratitude prayer despacho, and I have it sitting next to me on the front seat. I'm always honored to do that, and just the idea that I'm carrying the prayers of 40 people in this community despacho next to me in my seat of my car is it's humbling, and I feel very honored to do it. Really feels like precious cargo. And the despacho is infused with a lot of flowers and some fresh rosemary that a lady had brought from her garden. She was there as a vendor talking about gardening and the importance of that, and the spiritual connection of gardening and all of that. So she had a whole bag of fresh rosemary. So the rosemary got added to the despacho, as well as the Peruvian flower water. So my car right now is smelling like amazingly awesome, and I wish I could share it with you guys, because I'm like just in heaven in my car. But the reason I wanted to get out of my own self-thought for a minute and talk to you guys was because a couple of things came up today. And both of those conversations, went pretty deep, and they both sort of resulted in the same discussion, which was about failed shamanic initiation. So that's really what I wanted to talk about today, because in our post-industrial American culture, failed shamanic initiation is so common. More common than people really realize. So that's why I wanted to talk about it. One of the ladies that spoke to me at the table told me that her sister was quote-unquote mentally ill, and she described that as almost like a psychosis, right? She was hearing voices and seeing things and whatnot. And I guess, treatments or whatever weren't working for her. I don't know. She wanted a more natural approach. So she went down to Peru to meet with a shaman in hopes of getting healed of her quote-unquote mental illness. And the woman was telling me that when the shaman met with her sister, the shaman told her that basically that she was your shaman. And so it wasn't a shock or surprise to me at all, because the second she told me that her sister was like hearing voices and seeing things, I was thinking to myself, well, she, poor thing, she's shaman. But yeah, so she went down there to Peru, and the shaman in Peru told her that she was shaman. So this woman, gave me some encouragement along those lines, saying, basically that her sister had, sufficiently recovered to lead a functional life. So it did really help her. And, the thing that happens, because we really have a severed sort of lineage in our culture. The lineage is there, the shamanic lineage is there, but it's been severed, and it's created a vacuum. And so we have these newly awakening shamans, and not only do we not have a role for shaman in our society in any kind of way, really, we also don't have a lineage for for the typical sort of apprenticeship, mentoring relationship to occur. And so a lot of times people who are shamanic, they end up in the helping professions because that's the closest thing to shaman that we have. So maybe they can become chaplains because of their, sort of enculturation, their religious enculturation, or they become social workers, or they become psychotherapists. They might even become nurses or doctors, or, alternative health practitioners, whether it's Chinese medicine or massage therapists or Reiki, practitioners. All of these things can be. I'm not saying all those people are shaman. I'm saying that a lot of shamans find their way into the more helping professions, the healing professions, because they're shaman, and there isn't the role of shaman in our culture. Now, that's changing. It's definitely changing, and more people are waking up and trying to reconnect to that. But we still lack the lineage, in the sense that even if someone wakes up and realizes, oh, I'm shaman, the next step is, well, where do I go? Where do I go for mentorship? Where do I go to get apprenticeship? Where's a preceptor? It's not built in to our culture. In the traditional tribal culture, the community culture, someone wakes up as a shaman, and the elder shaman in the tribe, automatically knows, okay, the spirits are, it's this person's shaman. And they come along and, sort of wrap their arm around, and, then the long sort of relationship of preceptor-apprentice begins. And the elder shaman will teach, the initiate for sometimes years and years, until that initiate has, done the alchemical work to clear out, and learn the ins and outs, the technique and the skills, and really reaches that point, of being elder. And that really is the fundamental difference between the shamanic initiate and the shaman, is not just being elder. I mean, that's one distinction and label to it, but it's being of service. And so if you have all these gifts of being a shaman, but you're not actually in service to humanity, you're not in service to your community or your tribe to help decrease the pain and suffering of your people, then you're not shaman. I don't know, probably sorcerer. You could be a sorcerer, but shaman by definition is service. And so a lot of people have a misunderstanding about that. They think shamans are, you can't call yourself a shaman because you're just trying to conflate your ego. It's not about that. It's not about prestige. Most shamans, it's not about money. Most shamans have actually taken a vow of poverty, and it's not because they want to be poor. It's because in our culture there isn't the role for it. And we don't live in a sort of socialist type of environment that most tribal people live in, where everybody's sort of equal and taken care of equally. And so because of that, and there not being the role of shaman in our culture, a lot of shamans end up taking a vow of poverty, in these post-industrial Western cultures. It's a shame. I don't think that it's right, and I don't agree with it, but it is the way that it is. So we don't come for prestige. We don't come for the title. We don't come, for power, any of that. To be shaman is to be humble and to be of service, with the heart's intention to decrease pain and suffering for humanity. And so if you don't have the clear sort of path that takes you, from being the initiate to being the elder in service, then you can really decompensate. And, these mental health labels don't really actually help. They sort of pathologize the shamanic initiation. And if people really buy into that story about themselves, that they're mentally ill, they can really decompensate. And, you can have a failed shamanic initiate that literally does become mentally ill. And I'm not talking about the traditional definition of mental illness out of the DSM in our culture of, psychosis, hearing voices, seeing things, delusional, sense of reality, this and that. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about true madness. True madness, true mental illness is created from the pathological condition of a failed shamanic initiation. And a perfect example, to me in my mind, of a failed shamanic initiation is Jim Morrison from The Doors. I mean, he just really, really pops out to me as a prime example of a failed initiation. And the tragedy is Jim knew he was shaman. On some core level, he knew who he was, but there wasn't that lineage there, that mentorship there. And, he like a lot of failed shamanic initiates, fell into alcoholism and, dabbled with drugs. This is what happens. A lot of failed shamanic initiation looks like that. It looks like drug addiction. It looks like alcoholism. It looks like suicidality. It looks like, repetitive visits into psychiatric hospitals, into even medical hospitals, in and out, homelessness, sexual addiction. A lot of failed initiates, they become dark sorcerers, and they fall into that, sort of malevolent sex magic or chaos magic. And again, I'm not saying that this is true across the board, that every failed shamanic initiate becomes this thing, or that every dark sorcerer is a failed shamanic initiate. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that these are some of the risks and what can happen in failed shamanic initiation, especially when it's pathological. And, years and years and years of getting sort of stuck in that cycle. If the person doesn't end up dying of drug overdose or committing suicide, it can really lend itself to, a very depraved situation. Because what happens is the shamanic initiate, becomes open to the spirit world, and they don't have a context for it. And so, or even if they do, like in Jim Morrison's case, I think he knew he was shaman, but even if you have a context, but you don't have the lineage, you don't have the mentorship to sort of help you with those technical skills and with the alchemical work that has to go along with being an elder, you can really fall into a depraved situation, because what happens is you're so open spiritually, and you get entity attachments. Over a period of time, it's quite possible that these initiates can fall into like full-on demonic possession. Where their spirits aren't even in them anymore. They're not. Their body is being controlled by other spirits, other entities. They've kind of taken over the helm. And so that's a big danger. It's a reality, and it's a big danger. And so really that was it. It's a short video today, but I just wanted to talk a little bit to make the distinction between the shamanic initiate and the shaman, the elder shaman being in service, and between like shaman and sorcerer once again, and also talk about what the failed shamanic initiation might actually look like. Oh yeah, that's one more thing I wanted to say too, because in our culture we don't have at this point in time a clear shamanic role or lineage. Not only do a lot of shamanic initiates end up in the helping professions, but a lot of shamanic initiates end up looking to people in the helping professions to sort of mentor them in their own shamanic initiation, whether they're conscious that that's actually what's occurring or not. It is, pretty likely that a newly awakened shaman is going to try to find, a mentor, whether that's a psychotherapist or some type of spiritual mentor, like a chaplain or a pastor, or even a, spiritual practitioner of some sort, Reiki or something like that. Whoever, is sort of already serving that mentor role, or comes along into their path, that shamanic initiate might kind of gravitate and grab onto that person to try to get, what they can in terms of the wisdom and the guidance. So that's a really common thing. So I guess what I'm saying is there's a lot more people who are shamanic in our culture than we've really, acknowledged or recognized. But by the same token, because all of this is sort of occurring outside of the context of the shamanic archetype, it can also, lead to failed shamanic initiation, because your therapist might actually be shamanic but has failed their own initiation in some sense. Of course they're in service and they've transmuted, they've gotten to the position, gone through the system to get educated and the degrees and whatnot that they need to be in that role, but they might not understand the other things that come along, with dealing with the spiritual realm. And so they can't provide that level of mentorship, to be able to guide the initiate on, protection and safety and prayer and all these kind of more, spiritual facets. And so, if you're only relying on your psychotherapist, while it's better than nothing, you also could, put yourself at risk for failed shamanic initiation. So yeah, for initiation to reach its fullest potential, for the initiate to be able to, walk that path and reach that elderhood and that position of service, it does really require the fullness of, the shamanic archetype and the path. And so, as I'm saying, we can get support from all these other sources, which in our culture are the traditional and normal places we would get support, but it isn't the same thing. It just really isn't the same thing. So I know that seems like really bad news, because if you're, newly awakened shaman, then you're looking around going, well, where do I go? Where do I find the mentor? It's hard, but there are more and more people stepping forward. So the good news is, that paradigm and that context is becoming more and more available. You might have to search around a little bit for it, but compared to, even 20 years ago, when people like Michael Harner and Sandra Ingerman were about the only, shamanic types that there were, it's exponentially grown, and it's continuing to grow at a really rapid rate, because there's so many of us. There's just so many of us, and I think for a lot of people, they've been wondering for a really long time too, So yeah, I'm encouraged in that, and I hope that you're encouraged in it too. So that's all I have to say, and thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. I love you guys, as always. If you have comments or questions, leave them below, and I will definitely respond, and have a great day.